prioritizing job creation, less regulations and full support for the industry is expected to take center stage at the annual mining Indaba. The Indaba kicked off on Monday today with more than 6,000 delegates attending the four-day event held in Cape Town. Delivering the keynote address at the Indaba, Mineral Resource Minister Mosebenzi Zwane indicated that the government had consulted extensively with stakeholders on the revised mining charter, which will be gazetted in March. Minister Zwane has assured that the final mining charter will be reflective of the view of stakeholders and provide for investor certainty as South Africa moves towards a transformed economy. Now, joining me in studio to discuss this further is ANN7's business editor, Mr. Clive Ramatabela-Smith. Good afternoon to you, Clive. Always a pleasure chatting to you. Once again, we're going to allow you to make sense of it all. What can we expect to be on that agenda when it comes to South Africa's mining sector? What is important right now?
Good afternoon to you, Abigail, and the rest of your viewers as well. I mean, it's a very interesting one this particular time. Normally, we call it a talk shop, but I think the issues have come now to be kept on top of mind, particularly since the last year when, you know, every year we talk about what it is that has to be done to reform the mining sector, what are the critical things or decisions that need to be taken to make sure that the industry is actually continuing on its drive in terms of beneficiation for the people and making sure, obviously, that business as a whole contributes more collaterally across the entire economy. Let's not forget, you know, the mining sector has been slowly declining in terms of participating on the GDP number of South Africa. And despite the fact that, you know, there are great opportunities, a great potential that it has to actually increase its contribution and to make sure that it betters people's lives, it seemingly hasn't done so. Instead, it has put some other people in actually worse positions because we see them obviously cutting down on jobs, not meeting the targets in terms of empowerment. But not only that, also not fast-pacing on these particular factors such as beneficiation as well. So it's a critical point, and I don't know if you caught some of the captions that were said by the minister. It seems like it is a serious issue that needs to be put on the table, and the fact that there's going to be the charter itself is going to be gazetted in March. It brings maybe some slight hope to those of us who want to see the industry actually reformed, restructured and transformed.
Clive, you know, when you think of the mining sector, you think of the miners themselves and the situations that they face every day. You think of incidents like what took place in Marikana during the Marikana massacre. You take a look at what happened at Lily Mine. Those 3 miners are still underground. Do you think discussions around, you know, improving the lives and conditions of miners in the country is something that needs to be talked about and discussed?
It's very tough because, you know, all sectors have their view of what the mining sector should be. So, for example, you talk to business, you talk to the mining companies themselves, they believe that they're contributing quite considerably, they believe that they're doing enough, and perhaps they are. And, you know, we should not argue the fact that they haven't, to some extent, been able to penetrate the market, to be able to make it more transparent and more available to people. But on the other side, then you find the side where have they done enough? You know, you talk about those incidents, for example, they bring back about, perhaps maybe not the Marikana issue, but the issue of the Lily Mine brings back safety into the front. It brings back how transparent these things are when it comes to looking after the people. Those people still haven't been compensated for those they've lost. So, you know, there are mixed feelings about where the industry is going. But one thing we should not forget is that the government does still provide a lot of leeway. It gives them a lot of accessibility to how they actually implement some of the policies themselves, and they've been given that. They've been given the leeway in terms of how to empower. So they should be perhaps maybe doing a little bit more. And we understand that prices are commodity prices are very weak at the moment. They're not looking good, particularly certain companies such as the ones in the platinum sector have suffered quite considerably because the price of platinum hasn't moved whatsoever. But it begs the question, shouldn't they be planning a bit better? You know, when you're a business, you need to know the good times and the bad times. You need to know the weather and how to actually plan effectively in terms of management of your risk, of your investments, and make sure that even when the times are bad, you're still able to sustain them, to sustain your business. So I don't think they've done enough of that. And every time when shareholders of these mine companies hear that there's a price drop or there's something not happening the way that they like, the quickest thing that they do is to cut down jobs. That needs to be changed. We have to look at different ways of making sure that they sustain themselves and they continue to mine in the way that they're doing. So, by the way, we're talking about the sector in its entirety, which contributes quite considerably to our GDP. So I think that there should be better management from the bottom all the way to the top in terms of structure, particularly those that are listed on the JSE, to sort of make things much, much easier and actually benefit our people a bit more.
Clive, something that you've touched on, that is the jobs front in that specific sector. How are things looking? Is this something that needs to be discussed in detail as well?
We remember this year already, we had three companies in the mining sector who actually cut jobs. One of them retreated and said no, they're going to restructure or redeploy those particular employees. And the other one is going to have to make sure that they get rid of 320 people by the end of March. So it's obviously a difficult problem. And we're not taking away from the fact that technology, hard resources or terrible pricing in terms of commodities have hit them hard. But also you ask yourself, well then, how does the Australian model work? Why have they been more successful? Why have they maintained their workers? You ask the Chilean method, how has that worked? How have they been able to strive despite the fact that these commodity prices have... And it all has to do with planning and ownership. So, for example, here we have a situation where most of the mining companies are foreign owned. So despite the fact that they have their grounds here and they've been contributing quite considerably here, but the shareholdership is elsewhere. So the interests, unfortunately, are not well aligned, and so that's why we have this particular problem. So those things need to be taken into consideration to protect the jobs. We can't allow things like that to happen when the country's unemployment rate is sitting at 27.1%.
Definitely. Clive, let's leave it there for now. Appreciate chatting to you in studio. ANN7's business editor, Mr. Clive Ramatabela-Smith, just chatting to us about the mining Indaba that kicks off today in Cape Town. It is a 4-day Indaba. I'm sure we'll be speaking to Clive throughout the 4 days to keep us up to date with regards to what transpires there and what else is expected to be on the agenda. Stay tuned to ANN7 for the latest updates.